The Hillsborough Disaster was a fatal crowd crush that occurred at a football match at Hillsborough Stadium in Sheffield on the 15th of April 1989. It happened during an FA Cup semi-final between Liverpool and Nottingham Forest in the two standing only central pens of the Leppings Lane stand allocated to Liverpool supporters. Shortly before kick-off, police match commander David Duckenfield ordered exit gate C to be opened in an attempt to ease crowding, which led to an influx of supporters entering the pens. That move resulted in overcrowding of those pens and the fatal crush, with a total of 97 fatalities and 766 injuries. The disaster is the deadliest in British sporting history. In the following days and weeks, South Yorkshire police fed the press false stories suggesting that football hooliganism and drunkenness among football supporters had caused the disaster. 26 years after the tragedy, a second coroner's inquest ruled that the supporters were unlawfully killed owing to grossly negligent failures by police and ambulance services to fulfil their duty of care. In the end, 6 people were charged with offences including manslaughter by gross negligence, misconduct in public office, and perverting the course of justice for their actions during and after the disaster. On the 14th of June 2017, a fire broke out in the 24-storey Grenfell Tower block of flats in North Kensington in West London. That fire burned for 60 hours. 70 people died at the scene and 2 later died in hospital. It was the deadliest structural fire in the United Kingdom since the 1988 Piper Alpha oil platform disaster and the worst UK residential fire since the Blitz of World War II. The Grenfell Tower inquiry began on the 14th of September 2017 to investigate the causes of the fire and other related issues. Findings from the first report of the inquiry were released in October 2019 and addressed the events of the night. It affirmed that the building's exterior didn't comply with regulations and was the central reason why the fire spread. It also said that the fire service were too late and too slow in advising residents to evacuate. A second phase to investigate the broader causes began on the 27th of January 2020. After extensive hearings, Grenfell Tower Inquiry's final report was published on the 26th of February 2025, as was the government's response, which accepted the findings and outlined plans to act on all 58 recommendations. Police investigations are ongoing to identify possible cases to place before the Crown Prosecution Service, who will decide on criminal charges. Due to the complexity and volume of material, cases aren't expected to be presented before the end of 2026, with any trials beginning in 2027. The British Post Office scandal involved the Post Office pursuing thousands of innocents for apparent financial shortfalls caused by faults in Horizon, an accounting software system developed by Fujitsu. Between 1999 and 2015, more than 900 sub-postmasters were wrongfully convicted of theft, fraud, and false accounting based on the faulty data from that software. Other sub-postmasters were prosecuted but not convicted, forced to cover illusory shortfalls caused by Horizon with their own money, or they had their contracts terminated. The court cases, criminal convictions, imprisonments, loss of livelihoods and homes, and debts and bankruptcies led to stress, illness, and family breakdowns, and were linked to at least 13 suicides. Shockingly, it took a UK TV dramatisation to bring this into the media spotlight. On the 23rd of February 2016, the boiler house at the disused Didcot A power station partially collapsed, killing 4 workers: Ken Cresswell, John Shaw, Mick Collins, and Chris Huxtable. The workers' bodies weren't recovered for months, and the families of the deceased are still waiting clear answers about the incident, with the investigation still ongoing almost 10 years later. 4 very different cases, yet they are bound by certain striking similarities. Most obvious among those similarities is that in each instance there was a loss of life. 4 at Didcot, 72 at Grenfell Tower, 97 at Hillsborough. And while the individuals took their own lives, the post office scandal is linked to 13 suicides. In each of the 4 cases, it took an inordinate amount of time to reach anything even approaching a resolution. In fact, the disasters at Didcot and Grenfell are still subject to an ongoing investigation. There's another similarity at play here too, at least in three of the four cases. In the case of both Hillsborough and the post office scandal, the authorities chose to blame the victims. In the case of Grenfell, those living in the ill-fated tower had their safety concerns ignored. But the greatest similarity between Hillsborough, Grenfell, Didcot, and the post office scandal is one that goes unspoken, even though it's obvious to even the most casual observer. In each instance, the victims were all working class men and women. Now, around half of the people in the UK are classified as working class. The law of averages, therefore, means that working class people are maybe a bit more likely to have been victims in each of these four cases. But would it have required a TV drama series to highlight the plight of 900 people if those people had been working at a legal practice rather than a local post office? Would it have taken 30 years to exonerate those Liverpool supporters if they'd been a bunch of bankers on a Jolly Boys outing? Would we still be waiting for answers over the Didcot disaster if the four men that had perished had been MPs rather than demolition workers? Here's the thing. Yes, working class people are probably more likely to be in attendance at a football match. Statistically speaking, working class people are more likely to find themselves living in a tower block. They're more likely to find themselves working on the demolition of a power station boiler house or behind a counter in a post office. But in each instance, the same duty of care should have been in place, regardless of whether the victims were working class, middle class, or members of the aristocracy. Their deaths should have been investigated with the same veracity and determination, whether they spend their days in hard hats, business suits, or ermine. The working classes account for 49% of the UK population. The nation and the nation's economy ride upon the backs of working people, their hard graft, their tax contributions. The country needs its working people. Yet when those working people needed their country looked the other way.